She blinded me with science. Oh, hi. um, Science. Today I want to talk to you about science, which you probably guessed. Science is interesting. I try to approach what I do as scientifically minded as possible, testing hypotheses, recording the results, trying again. Um, the funny thing is, with conscious manifestation, there really isn't a way to objectively study it at this time because we don't have tools that can record the whole of a human's consciousness. And when I say consciousness, what I'm talking about is the combination of a person's beliefs, thoughts, and feelings. We don't have tools to measure all those things. We can measure things like emotional response and heart rate, and we can do surveys and try to detect beliefs, but those surveys have to be incredibly complicated. And it's very difficult to not introduce observer bias into our experiments if we're trying to measure things objectively. Eventually, I would like to actually do a clinical trial of what I teach and practice, and see what we can observe about the results of practicing conscious manifestation. But right now, the only methods that are really available to us as researchers or as humans is to test things in our own life and record our admittedly subjective results. That said, science itself is not a perfect tool or methodology because we still have no way to completely eliminate observer bias in the scientists who are studying things. And it's really hard to eliminate the societal or cultural programming that goes into this. So, for an example, two researchers spaced 20 years apart, one male in the 1950s, one female in the 1970s, studied the same creatures and observed completely different things. The male researcher in the 1950s America, he observed these bonobo monkeys, I believe it was bonobos, and said that it seemed like the males would fight for dominance and fight for who got to mate with the females and all this stuff, the struggle for survival, Darwinian belief. The female scientists in the 1970s, completely different cultural landscape at that time in America. This was the dawning of sexual freedom. This was the dawning of women having equal rights as far as things like being able to own their own house or get a loan or buy a car. Women didn't have that right in America until 1974. This is actually the 50-year anniversary. So this female researcher in the 1970s, at the dawn of women's freedom and sexual freedom, she observed that the bonobo females would mate with all the males willy-nilly, and she theorized that they did that to make sure that all the males contributed to helping to raise the young. Totally different outcome, totally different observation by two different people. So it's very helpful to be aware of our own observer bias and also to take scientific findings, particularly statistical data or conclusions, with a tad grain of salt, because we don't know what their biases were that they introduced into the research. Now, with the dawn of AI, I believe it may be possible to actually remove that observer bias from the equation with my experiment. So we'll see how that goes, but it's going to take probably $1 million just to set it up. So that's one of my long-term plans. And that will take several years to fully prove out the results because my program and what I teach is a year long. So going through multiple, small scale, like 25 people to 200 people to 1,000 people to 10,000 people and scaling it up, that's going to take several years. I do hope to one day produce the clinical research evidence that shows that conscious manifestation is a thing. Until then, I will continue to practice and experiment in my own life and help my clients practice and experiment in their own lives, because I truly have experienced absolutely amazing things. I've manifested things that are not normal completely. I have documented those things when I can or when I remember to. But I manifest all kinds of stuff. Big things, little things. I try to live my life in a state of constant practice of being aware of what my beliefs are, being aware of what my thoughts are, being aware of what my emotions are, what my words are, what my actions are, and curating myself to manifest only that which I do choose to experience. And I encourage you to do the same.